Hello WinCraps fans. Today I would like to discuss a strategy called Crossbow. It's proposed by John at WinCraps. John has a site listed at youtube.com/@WinCraps, and you can find many of his strategies there, and you can also find his link to the specific Crossbow strategy in my description below, and you can also see it here at the top of the script that I've written for this. So let me just describe briefly what Crossbow is, and then we'll kind of walk through the script and see what we've got. It is an improved, more aggressive Iron Cross strategy, which of course includes the place 5, 6, and 8, the field, and John is including the horn. Now the normal Iron Cross does not include the horn. He's having the bets off on the come out roll. And the whole idea is to be a little more aggressive for the first 2 or 3 hits, and then come off of the crossbow bets and move on to a second strategy. So the idea is that the first 2 or 3 aggressive hits are to build up enough of a win to pay for the strategy that you're going to employ, kind of get you going on that. So here's what we're going to do. We're going to start out with a script that just starts a new session with a $1,000 bankroll, sets auto handle winning bets to same bet. We're going to run multiple sessions, and we're going to decide to do new sessions based on if our bankroll has dropped below a minimum bet, or if we've made 20%. So if our bankroll is greater than or equal to the beginning bankroll times 1.2, that would be 20%. So since a $1,000 bankroll here, that would mean if we win $1,200 or more. Now we're going to start out with no rolls when you initialize a script. Let me go back up here. When it says number of rolls equal to 0, it's going to come here and it's going to set some check stack values that we're going to use throughout the script. And then later on, if you have a 7 out, or anytime there's a dice total of 7, it's going to reset all these same check stacks. So what we're going to do is we're going to record the number of hits on place bets. We're going to record the number of hits on the field, the number of hits on the horn bets, and then we're going to decide the field bet actually has a parlay working on there. So when we have the parlay in effect, we're going to have a check stack that's showing true or false. And then when all the crossbow bets have hit enough times to build us up to do our second strategy, we're going to employ that, and that's going to be a check stack called strategy 2, and it'll be either true or false. Then we drop down here and we say if in fact that check stack 5 is true, then we're going to go to a point in the script called strategy 2. Now let me roll down here. We'll show you where that is. These green things you see, these are labels, and when you use a go-to statement and you use the name of a label, then it will jump to this in the script. It'll jump down to where this label is listed. So when it says go to strategy 2, it comes to what I have highlighted here, strategy 2, and then it plays what we have here. Now I've just got a very simple system for strategy 2. John's proposed a number of different possibilities, but one I've picked here is that when the first strategy is complete, it blanks out all the bets. Then it comes in here and says if place 5 is equal to 0, it's basically going to bet $44 inside. So $10 on each of the inside place bets. Of course, with the auto adjust bet amounts, the $10 will become 12 on the 6 and 8. Then for each win it comes through, it says that if any of the inside place bets win, it's going to add half. It's going to take the last amount on the place bet that won, take half of that amount, and add it onto the place bet. So for instance, if the place 6 had won, let's say it's a $12 place 6, then it would take the amount that had won, excuse me, I didn't even put 1 in here. It's the last of the amount that was bet. So if the last amount was bet was 12, and then half of that is 6, so it's going to add 6 onto the 12. So you're going to end up with an $18 bet. Now the next time it comes through, it'll say last amount that was bet times half. So if it was 18, that then it becomes 9. It tries to add 9 onto 18, comes up with 27. And in this case, the auto adjust bet amounts feature will kick in and say, well, it needs to be moved up to a $30 bet. So the 50% add-on here does not always come out to 50% because it has to be adjusted for the payoffs, but that's not a problem. And let me switch back up here then to where we were. Okay, so that's if we were going to strategy 2, we would go down there. But now let's get on to what the main strategy is. The bets are made, and I'll show you where they're made later on in the bottom of the script here. But it comes through and it says if the place 5 wins, or the place 6 wins, or the place 8 wins, then we're going to add 1 to the number of place hits. We're just going to say it was hit. Now we're not going to adjust the bet at this time. And the reason is because John doesn't want these bets working on the come out roll, which means we're not going to be putting the field bet on or the horn bets on. So I'm not going to put the place bets up either. We'll just leave them all off. And then when the come out roll comes around, that's when we'll put them on. And we'll use these check stack values to determine how much we need to bet at that time. So that's for the place bets. And then for the field bet, if the field should win, we know it's going to parlay. So first we're going to come in here and say, if our check stack field parlay is true, that means it's already been set. Then we're going to consider that a field hit, and then we'll turn it back to false. If it's not true, which it isn't, the very first field win is not true, so it comes down here and it says field parlay is now true. So it's going to parlay the field down in the betting section, and then the second time it comes through, it will say, okay, now we'll register a hit. In other words, a field is only registering a hit when it's won twice, and that's because we're parlaying the amount. So a hit in this sense kind of means a hit on which we're actually pulling money. So then it comes down and looks at the horn bets, which we've split up into 2, 3, 11, and 12, because what we're doing is betting a unit each on 2 and 12 and 2 units each on 3 and 11. So if any of these bets hit, we're going to add 1 to the number of horn hits. Then, since John is saying we want to go 2 to 3 hits for the whole system before we move to strategy 2. So what it's doing here is it's saying, let's look at the sum now of the number of place bet hits, the field hits, and the horn hits. And if the sum of all those hits is greater than or equal to 2, then we're going to remove all the bets. We're going to stop all the crossbow bets. We're going to say that the strategy 2 is now going to be in effect, so we're saying that the value is true. And now it says go to strategy 2, so it's going to skip the crossbow bets. Now we get down to the final section here, the crossbow bets themselves. We say if a point is established, in other words, we're no longer on the come out roll, it's going to bet $25, that's the base bet for a place 5, and we're going to add on how many hits times 5. So in other words, each time one of these place bets hit, we're going to bump up the place 5 by $5 and the place 6 and 8 by $6 each. So we're just saying here, if it's had 1 hit, it'll just go up $5. If it were 2, it would go up 10. But in fact, that's kind of moot, because we said up above there that if we have 2 hits, we're going to go to the second strategy. Anyway, that's how it's working here. We're just saying 1 hit times 5, and for the 6 and 8, we're saying bet $30 plus the number of hits times 6. I'll play 6 and 8. Then we're saying if the field parlay is in effect, then we're going to bet the last amount that was on field times 2 on the field. And if it wasn't, then we're just going to bet a basic $10 on the field. If the horn hits are less than 2, and then we're going to bet $1 on 2 and 12 and $2 on 3 and 11. And this is probably somewhat moot as well, because if the horn hits twice, we're also going to be ending up going to the second strategy. Now at the very bottom here, since we have 2 different strategies, what we're doing is separating them out, and we don't want them to intermingle. So when we're done with this section up here, which is all the crossbow bets, we've got a statement right here that says go to end, and I put a label at the very end of the script. It's called end. So it says we're done processing the crossbow bets. We're going to skip all the way down to the bottom. We're not going to process any of this one called strategy 2. So that's how we're separating these 2 systems out. Up here at the top, as I said here, here's the statement that says if strategy 2 is in effect, go to strategy 2. So it would skip all of this and go all the way down here, execute that, hit the end, and go out. The crossbow, on the other hand, would not execute this statement. It would start executing these things in here. it would come down to make the bets, and it would say go to end, and then it would skip over the end. So I hope that's clear. It's a way to kind of create separate little sections by themselves. They're isolated. This has a go to in front of it that directs the traffic around it, and we had a statement up there that brings us in. So anyway, I hope that's clear. Okay, so let's go back to the table and let's just kind of see how some of this plays out. Now, we've not got a point on here, and we don't want any bets to go on until we establish a point, so why don't we just do that? Let's establish an 8. Okay, so here come our bets. We got a $25 place 5, $30 and 6 and 8. We have a $10 field. We got a $2 3, a $2 yo, $1 2, and a $1 midnight. So let's say we're going to hit, let's roll a 12. So the 12 won, and so that's one hit, and we still have the same bets. Nothing else was pressed up. Oh, I take it back. There's one hit on the 12 here, but we also hit the field. So the field is going to be parlayed. Now, the way I usually use the word parlay is to take all of the winnings and increase the bet by the amount of winnings. The way John was using it, I believe, was actually what I would call a press, which is a doubling of the bet. So we had a $10 bet, we pressed it up to 20. Instead of, in this case, I've got 12 paying triple. So we would have been up to like a $40 bet if it was a real parlay. Anyway, so it's parlayed up now, and now we'll roll, let's say we'll roll an 11. So the parlay won, and the yo that was over here won. And now it has gone to strategy 2. So it's removed all the bets from the table and then started over with our $44 inside. And the way we've got that set up with the 50% press, let's say if we were to roll a 5. Now you can see it was a $10 bet, it's now a $15 bet. If we roll it again, 50% is the 7.5, that would go to 22.5. And in order to make it a proper bet, it would increase it to the next even unit. So let's say we roll a 5. Or not even unit, I'm sorry, multiple of 5. So it goes up to 25 bucks. All right, if we're 7 out, it's going to start all over with the crossbow bets again. And of course we have to establish a point. Let's do that. And here's the crossbow bets. 25, 30, 30, 10, and the horns. Now, of course, the horns, if we roll a horn, let's say we roll a 2, the very first time you roll it, the one that you rolled, of course, wins, the other ones lose, but you're going to replace these because you're still on one win. On the second win, and the wins don't have to be like 2 of the hop bets here. It could be one of these and maybe one of the place bets. At least that's the way I interpret the way he was describing the system. So if, here we've won one hop bet. Let's say we make an 8 bet now. We roll a place 8. So same thing. There's our 2 hits. Everything comes down and we go back up to 44 inside. So let's say we do another 7 out. Let's establish a point. This time let's say we roll a 10. In this case, all those hop bets had lost, but the field won, and it's going to press. It goes up to 20. Now, if it should win again, that's going to constitute our 2 wins, and we should go to strategy number 2. And it didn't do that. Let's see what. Oh, I'm sorry. That second hit there was actually only recorded as 1 hit. I forgot about that. I think I told you though. The way we've got it structured in here. We said that on the first hit, if the field part is not in a parlay, then we just make it to a parlay. If the field was in a parlay, then that's when we add on and record the number of hits. So we actually have to hit 2 field parlays in order to move on. So let's try that. So here's another field. This time let's roll say an 11. And well, we hit. Sorry about that. We hit a horn here. Let me redo this. I just want to show the field portion. So let's say we establish an 8. Let's just stick with the 10 here. Okay, here's a 10. That goes to a parlay. Let's win the 10. That counts as 1 hit. Let's roll another 10. Goes to another parlay. And now when we hit it again, that will constitute the second hit. And now we go to strategy 2. Okay. Sorry about that. I kind of mixed it up. Anyway, I think you get the gist of how that thing flows, let's start a new session here, and we can kind of watch it just a little bit. We'll slow the hyperdrive down here and start running. Okay, it's taking some big hits. Let me stop there just momentarily. We started out here at 1,000. Looks like so far we've peaked out here at 1,120. And actually I can make this a little bigger to look at. Went up to 1,120. And now we're just, let's see, we got down to about $200. Right now we're sitting at $313. Don't know if this is going to recover or not. Oh, okay, it bottomed out, started a new session. I can speed it up here just a little bit. Speed it up even more. So it looks to me like a lot of these are going down. There's a few of them that are going up. Anyway, sometimes it's hard to tell when you're watching just a few sessions, so you have to collect a lot. Of course, I've done that on the sessions log. Let's go in and take a look. Let me open up our Crossbow number 1. And here's what we've got. Let's start out looking at the number of rolls. So here I've got a selection of 12,456 sessions. 8,764 were winning sessions. That's 70% win rate. That's pretty good. The average session had 204 rolls. Right now the table here is set up at 120 rolls per hour. So we're looking at almost 2 hours worth of play for the average game. Shortest session was 7 rolls long, and the longest was 2,152 rolls, right up here. If we look now at the amount won or lost, the net, here we can see our two outcomes, the loss and our win. And we can see the average is a loss of $138 per session. So even though we have a pretty good win rate, the amount won doesn't outweigh the amount lost, because the amount lost is so much greater. You know, when you're losing, we're losing $1,000. When we're winning here, we're only winning $200 or slightly more. The most we ever won right up here in the corner was $631. All right, so if I would look at the data here, I would say over 12,000 sessions, the advantage turned out to be a minus 3.22%. So that's not the greatest. Honestly, if you were playing a pass or don't pass with odds, you'd fare much better than this. So I can't say I would recommend to play this, but you know, it could be an interesting system to play if there weren't so many sevens out there and you were getting lots of good numbers. But it does raise a question in my mind about, you know, how many hits are we getting per time that we're running this crossbow? So one thing we might do to find an answer to that would be go back to the script and say, well, instead of resetting games based on a bankroll, a win, goal, and loss limit, how about we just set it every time there's a 7 out, we'll start a new session. And that way we can just see per 7 out how much money we're getting, and see if that has any bearing on this. Okay, so we'll come up here, we'd start a new game. We deselect these so we can start out with fresh data. We'd run our hyperdrive, and then we'd go over to statistics, sessions log, and we would look at our data. Now, I've already run this before, and here's the data. This is, again, another 12,000 plus rolls, sessions. 6,785 were winning. In this case, it was only 55.43% of the sessions that won. Look at rolls again. We can see that the average number of rolls per 7 out would be 8.55. We had one session where it only lasted 2 rolls, and the longest session was 83 rolls. So kind of like the average hand, the longest hand. If we look at the dollar amount won and lost, now we can see that the average session lost $5.69. And we look at the data once again, where it's about minus 3.04%. And if we wanted to kind of break this down a little bit further, just for some interest, we could say, well, of these sessions out here, of course we have the losing sessions, but I want to find out on the times that we win, what do they look like? What do the wins look like? So I'm going to deselect the lost sessions and the break-even sessions. I just want to look at the winning sessions. So I'm looking at this 55.43, that's 6,785, which you can see is represented down here in the corner. That's how many sessions we're looking at. And now you can see that the average winning session won $58.60. And the lowest here was $1, and the highest was $3,243. But as you can see, this just tails off really quick, and then there's very, very few sessions that get out to these high numbers. Very, very few. So, as I may have mentioned, I've seen some different things that John has done on this, and I've seen, actually it was kind of described a little bit loose in a few spots where, you know, you can kind of play it a little this way, a little that way. I believe Jeremy over at Color Up did a rendition of this as well, and he did things a little bit differently. But I think the basics are here, and you can take a look at it if you like and tweak some of the numbers, change some things here. Maybe you want a different number of hits, or maybe you want to go to strategy number 2 on a different number of hits. Maybe you want to enter in a different strategy number 2, enter something else, play something different. A lot of things that you can do in here. So I hope you found that interesting, and thanks for watching, and take care. Bye.